Hi, so today we'll be interviewing you. My name is Ella.
My name is Dunja.
I'm Tessa.
I'm Harri.
And I'm Lelia.
Nice to meet you.
So could you just introduce yourselves, and maybe say a bit about your background and like your career?
My name's Kate Richardson-Walsh. I was born in Manchester. I played international field hockey for England and Great Britain for 18 years, spanned 5 Olympic cycles and went to 4 Olympic Games, winning Olympic bronze in London 2012 and Olympic gold in 2016. And now I'm a keynote speaker, a coach, a hockey coach, amongst other things.
Yeah, and I'm Helen Richardson-Walsh. Grew up playing sport, loved playing sport. I played in 4 Olympic Games like Kate. So Sydney, Beijing, London and Rio, where I got the gold medal. And I'm studying to be a sports psychologist and also do keynote speaking. We also wrote a book called Winning Together, which is about our experiences of building high-performing cultures. And yeah, we have a young daughter who's 4 years old.
Lovely, thank you. So our first question is sort of generic, maybe a bit cheesy, but what does field hockey mean to you, or what has it meant to you as you grew up?
I mean, in the beginning, maybe all the way through, but certainly in the beginning, it gave me something to focus on and quite literally something to do. Because where I was growing up, and I grew up in a nice enough area, but there was, for teenagers, there was very little to do, like in the evenings and at weekends. And going to hockey meant I was travelling 2 nights a week to go somewhere to train. And it gave me a focus eventually and gave me something to really anchor myself to, because I didn't really have anything else in life that felt like was really anchoring me. So, everything that I was, the kind of food I ate, the thoughts I had, the people I interacted with, started to all be about hockey for me. And so it definitely was about that anchoring, but also a bit of belonging, feeling like I could be myself, because I was really shy as a teenager. Like, no way this would have happened. Like, I would have blushed, then I would have felt embarrassed about blushing, and then I would have come just shut up, because I would have wanted to have stopped you staring at me, so I would have stopped. And so that held me back. But on the hockey pitch, I came to life, and it was a complete safe space for me to be myself. So that, I think, in the beginning was why I did it, and maybe all the way through, actually.
Yeah, for me, I just loved it. It just gave me enjoyment. It gave me fun. I would look forward to training in the evening. It was just something that I loved doing. And it was also a real safe space for me. I felt like I could truly be myself out there on the hockey pitch. And that was, I think, the same from when I started, or picked up a hockey stick and started when I was 7 all the way through until, retired in when was that, 2019. It was just, I could be myself. And it means everything to me, because that's where all my friends are from. That's where my wife was from. So yeah, hockey just has a real great place in my heart and always will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you've already started covering this a bit, but could you tell us a bit more about your careers and how they started specifically?
So I joined, I grew up around sport. I've got 3 older brothers, so I played hockey, cricket, football, tennis. I just loved sport. It was part of my life from day one, probably. And I joined my first hockey club when I was 7 years old, nearly 8 years old. We used to just go down to Sunday morning training for 90 minutes, walk to the club with my brothers. And that's where it all started for me. That's all I did, trained once a week on a Sunday. And then as I got older, I played a tiny little bit at school, and they sent me to county trials. I got selected for Nottinghamshire County. From that tournament, I got selected for the Midlands team, and then from that tournament, got selected for junior England teams, and then I kind of went up through the ranks of the junior England age groups, and then into the full senior team.
Similar to Helen, so my parents were both in education. They were both started as PE teachers, and they both played sport. So my dad played, I think in the beginning, before I was born, rugby, football, cricket, and then my mum was kind of hockey, bit of netball, but like sport and PE was very much part of their lives. So it was just, I suppose, natural for them to give that opportunity to my sister and I. And I went to gymnastics first. So I was quite young, so you can start gymnastics when you're really small. So that's where I started being taken to gymnastics, and I enjoyed parts of it, and there were other parts that I remember I really didn't like. Even though you don't have very many memories of when you're really young. As you get older, you lose all those memories. But there were bits of it I didn't enjoy, like being left by yourself to try and do this thing you were really struggling with, and I remember not enjoying parts of that. And then I started swimming, and I think firstly it was just to learn to swim as a kind of safety thing in life, like it's a good life skill to be able to swim. And then it got more serious, and it did kind of get for my sister and I to the point where it's like, okay, now you're going to have to start training in the mornings, and both of us were like, no. We quite like sleep. And we'd both started playing hockey at that point. So hockey kind of for both my sister and I took off from school. Then we joined a club, and we just kind of went straight. So my sister also played in the national team. She's 2 years younger than me, so we both kind of went on that journey together through hockey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Could you guys share a bit of your experiences, firstly as women and then as members of the LGBTQIA+ community in the field of sports?
I mean, as women, I had not appreciated that I was experiencing sexism until I was in a relationship with Helen. And then by that point I was 29, and it was because for the very first time I felt a bit othered being in a same-sex relationship. I remember at the Beijing Olympics, when it kind of all started to become more public, that I felt people were looking at me in a different way, they were talking to me in a slightly different way, and that didn't feel very comfortable. And then I started to recognise how I was othered in other parts of my life, but then how other people were even more, experiencing even more extreme levels. But part of that was as being a woman and experiencing sexism. And I look back and I was like, why have we never had a changing room at our hockey club, but the men's team, first team, have always had a changing room that belongs to them. They can leave their stuff in there. Like, why haven't we had that? And why do we have to do that and they don't have to do that? And then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You see it everywhere.
And every day. And I shouted at somebody yesterday on the plane because he was being sexist to the flight attendant. And when I hear it now and I feel safe to, I have to say something, because you see it everywhere, because the world is built by white, middle to upper class, able-bodied, cisgendered men predominantly, and it's built by them and for them. And that means that anybody that doesn't fit into that is experiencing some form of discrimination at some level, and that gets I don't think it's a continuum, but people are experiencing that at different levels every day. And that sexism was rampant, and it still is in sport. It's not just the pay, but the decisions that are made. We were Olympic gold champions. We were Olympic champions, gold medalists. We went to the Netherlands to play, which is kind of a semi-professional league. We were supposed to train 1 week. The men would train on a Friday night on the main pitch. 1 week the women would train. And every week the men's team would be training on that Friday night, and we kind of just had enough. And we'd reached a point in our lives, because of our age and because of maybe a bit of what we'd achieved, where we felt like we could actually start to challenge some of that. And it was just because it's the status quo and nobody had ever said anything. Well, that's just the way it is. Why? And it's just about being able to ask that question, why is it like that? Who is that benefiting? Who is it built by and who's it built for? And who is being discriminated because of that decision? And just to start unlocking some of that question. So that's the female bit for me. being a woman continues to be challenging. There are still doors closed, opportunities not available, funding not present, purely because of my gender.
And the excuses that we're given quite a lot, well, all the time, is that, you know, well, people don't watch women's sports, there's not enough crowds, and, you know, all this stuff, and they're all just lies. It's, you know, it's built on assumptions that are made. And, you know, take, for example, in the UK, England football team was banned from playing football for 50 years, like banned. And so it's just that opportunity and inequality that has led to where we are. And it's going to take a long time, but different decisions being made for that equality to come back. In terms of experiences of being gay in a hockey team, like, you know, Kate said it in our talk, you know, it was when we first kind of got into the team, we were, you know, surrounded by gay women, lesbian women, but it was really hush hush. No one really spoke about it. There was lots of women who we knew were gay, kind of knew they were gay, but that, you know, relationships were happening, not necessarily in the team, but there were relationships. They were with people, but they never spoke about it. And I think that's it made it more able for myself to come out. Like, me coming out was really hard. I found it really hard. I would always, when I was around, you know, kind of 14, 15, I'd look in the mirror and say, don't be gay, please don't be gay. You know, I didn't want to be gay. I didn't want to have to deal with that. But I was saying it because deep down I knew that there was something. And when I did have the courage to be myself and come out, it was challenging, but I changed as a person. I was just so much freer, but ultimately, I felt safe to come out in the hockey team environment because it was there, and us being open about our relationship made it much safer for others to do the same as well. And I think beyond our teams, but you know, we've been lucky. I think we've had some negativity, but not a huge amount. The odd bit online. We got sent something in the post.
Religious scriptures, yeah,
religious scriptures, to one of our hockey clubs. Thankfully, it wasn't to a home address. And yeah, we've had a little bit of that, but because of the talks that we go and do in the corporate side of things, because of the people that we've met since particularly winning the gold medal, the amount of people that have come up to us and said, thank you for just being you. And which, you know, is a shame in the way, you know, still there, that people just being themselves is making a huge difference, but it is. And and actually, do you know what, that gives me confidence, because I'm, you know, even though I am way more comfortable in my own skin and proud of who I am, sometimes it is still hard, you know, to keep coming out again and again and again.
On a daily
basis. On a daily basis.
Yeah.
When you go to the hairdressers, or when you're in a taxi, or, you know, those moments where you have to make a choice. Do I live my truth right now, or do I just I can't be bothered? And so those moments when people say to you, thank you for doing that, it does actually also help us.
I mean, it's also just there's a massive paradox, I don't know, around being a woman playing sport and being gay. And I think in the beginning there was almost of our career, I feel like there's almost an assumption that if you were a woman and you were sporty, you were gay. There was that connotation. And so in the beginning of our career, there was a really interesting, and I did my dissertation on this, the kind of over-sexualisation of female athletes. And for me, that period was because, and it still happens now, but it's because there is a thought that I need to sell my heteronormativity, and I need to sell this sexualization of this heteronormativity, because that will separate me from what this says about me, what people assume about me already. And I think we see it in sport all the time. I think we talk about it in women's football a little bit, is that I need to present myself in this way, because then I won't be, you know, labelled as all these other female athletes are being labelled, because that's seen as a negative thing. That's not, you know, it's not you're a woman, you play sport, you're gay. That's not in a positive sense. That's like and you're gay. And then the connotation to that is, as a gay woman, you are predatory. You are shifting people's sexuality. I can't think what the word is. You're what is the word? Turning people. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're turning people. And it's not said in a positive way. So then there was this over-sexualization of female athletes to kind of rally against that. We experienced it with the teammates in the same team that we were playing in. Absolutely saying that out loud, and that's been really hard and interesting. And I think, but then you think about being a male gay athlete, and actually it's the complete opposite. Actually, to be male, to be gay, and to play sport is something that's not seen, that go hand in hand. And we thankfully are having more people come out and more role models, but the big sport, the global sport, men's football, which reaches so many people, is still very, heterosexual. And there are, I think, 2 out male footballers globally. And so how hard that would be to have somebody stand in their truth, because it is very homophobic and transphobic and biphobic in every sense. The media, the fans, the sponsorship, the threat and the fear is real, and so that is interesting. Being a female, being an athlete, being gay, I think there's that. We've had to kind of navigate as well.
What advice would you give to people who face some of the discrimination you've just described?
I mean, for me, find a safe space to be able to talk about it.
That's what I was going to say. Try and find your people.
Yeah.
Which can be hard, but that's why the groups that the Rainbow Club that you've got here at this school is so valuable and needed for those people that don't feel seen or feel unsafe or are discriminated against. So that would be my first thing. Try and find your people, and it might be one person that can provide that safe space.
I think the other thing for me would be find the route to report it, to bring it to the fore, to open up a conversation about it. I love the quote, John Amici talks about your culture is defined by the worst behaviour tolerated in yourself and others. And if you think about that, what do we tolerate on a day-to-day basis? So for example, the guy that was behind, this is not kind of homophobic, but it was sexist. The guy behind me on the plane made quite a few sexist comments about the flight attendant. She was just doing her job, by the way. And I had a choice there. Like, do I feel safe to say something, to confront it? Do I just let it go? Because that's easy, comfortable. I could just pretend I didn't hear it. He'll get on, what difference is it going to make? And I have a choice in that moment. And I felt safe enough, and I was also really angry. So I turned around and I kind of just said something very direct to him. And he started whispering it instead of shouting it. But it was, we have choices, and can we, if we feel safe enough, can we stand up for ourselves? Can we stand up for others? When we hear racism, when we hear sexism, can we be brave enough, if we feel safe enough, to challenge it? Because I think that's, and it's not necessarily to shut it down, but it's to say, that makes me feel really uncomfortable. I'm gay, and that's very derogatory to me, as you talked about in the talk. Just being able to say that, I find that really uncomfortable. That's a very negative way to talk about gay people. That connotation is very negative, and to say that in support of other people, I think if we can do that, I think we start to build this momentum of positivity, of love and of care for people and their differences. So I think that for me is really key. Challenge, yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering a little bit, how was it starting a relationship when you were in the same team? Did you get any pushback from the team, like the other members, or was it accepted while
I think the early kind of months, it was a mixture. I think there were some that ultimately found it quite hard, probably because Kate was the captain, I was the vice captain at the time, so the leadership of the group was seen as this one thing, and quite rightly, leadership within organisations, within teams, should have difference, should have the ability to reach everybody. But they were seeing it as we were now this one kind of being. And was there that level of trust? Like if there was a problem with one of us, who did they have to kind of go to if that was the case? But that was only a kind of, I would say, a small number of people. I'm trying to think back who was in that team now. Actually, probably around half, I would probably say. Because I was then moving on after that period of time. Lots of those players didn't continue in the team just because of their age and where they were with their careers, and they didn't then carry on into 2009. And then when we moved forward, because it was a new Olympic cycle, I think one of the best things our coach did, even though it was probably one of the most painful experiences, I kind of wasn't overly open about stuff. I don't like necessarily talking about myself in that sense, and it's something that I've kind of learnt to love doing for the good that it brings. But I used to hate talking about my relationships and stuff. I still don't, really, with my parents and stuff like that. And so when our coach decided to have a meeting with him, the head coach, the performance director, the CEO of England Hockey and Great Britain Hockey, and us two, I was like, oh my God. So we had to come into this room, and he was like, okay, you two, in a relationship. But actually it was one of the best things in the world, because he just put it out there. It wasn't, we're not going to talk about this, we're just going to kind of try and get on without, talking about this. But he actually put it out there, and he also put out one of his biggest fears, which was, well, what if you break up? How is that going to now impact the team and disrupt the team? Which at the time, when you just started a relationship, you're a few months into a relationship, you're not thinking about breaking up. So having that conversation as well. But actually, what it did bring it out into the open. He was actually really great about it.
Yeah.
And that when your leaders are like that, then people tend to follow suit of the leaders. And I think we also had a much younger team coming through in 2009, and because it was just out there, we were able to kind of build it into who we were and what we wanted to be about. So yeah, I think there was a few challenging things, but ultimately it was dealt with very well. But it's annoying that I have to use those words, dealt with, because that sounds negative. But we made the best of it, which I think sends out a message, because people assume, well, you can't have a relationship in a team. But there's organisations and teams in every sector where there will be couples, straight couples mainly, but also gay couples, and you have a choice in every situation. You either make it a problem or you make a solution, and we made the best that we could out of it. And actually what we created in the end was even more of a safe space and an ability for everybody to be themselves, because we were the leaders of the team and we were showing that we can do this.
I think it allowed some really interesting conversations as well. So obviously we were an all-female team, but there were friendship groups in the team that were super tight and super close, and they were just friends. They were heterosexual, but they were really close friends. And the amount of time that they spent together, they would always share a room. They would always be walking around together. They'd be inseparable in that way, and which is lovely to have that connection with somebody. But interestingly, we're not sitting and have a conversation about their friendship and the amount of time they're spending together. And so what is the difference? are we, and just really just having a conversation about it. And are we over putting emphasis on our relationship because it's a different form of relationship? Is it because we're two women? Like, what is it? Let's just talk about it. And I actually really enjoyed that we had the maturity and, as you said, the leadership of the team that were totally prepared to do that. It is challenging. There are going to be challenges that are presented, but there are challenges if a friendship group breaks up in the same set. And we've had, we've had in the team many times over, and that can cause big issues and friction as well. So it's the safety of space just to allow people to be whoever they want to be and to explore that, I think, is ultimately all we wanted to be a part of and all we wanted to try and create, which thankfully we did have.
Brilliant, thank you. In terms of more focusing on hockey and sports, how do you deal with injury and possible mental blocks? For example, before big games or big competitions?
Yeah. I mean, you can deal with the injury bit because that's more you. I was very lucky that most of the injuries I received were because I got hit with a stick or a ball, which are a bit more easy to deal with than what Helen had to deal with. But certainly the psychology of, for me, was around those little, imposter syndrome, that little voice that creeps in that says you're not good enough. They don't think you're good enough. They're going to find you out today. All those things they've said about you are true. And, all those things certain, and still sometimes, come and circulate around my head. And it's something that I still have to really think about and put things in place to help overcome. And I actually use it as a really nice, bit of motivation, actually. It's a little bit of a fuel to my fire to say, well, I'm going to show you, actually. That, and I'm going to show that you can do this, you've done this before, you've done the work, you know what you're talking about. In a hockey sense, you've trained, you are really accomplished at this, and this. This is your role. You can deliver that with absolute certainty. You're ready. And it was almost like a little bit of check and challenge for me that I actually quite enjoyed tuning into, just being like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show them, I know what I'm about, and I would just go out and try and be that. But that took me a long time to get to there, because my kind of strength in the team was my performance, was my consistency. It wasn't super technical. I wasn't a massive goal scorer. I wasn't the star player. And people would probably question at times why I was in the team for certain reasons. And I had to really know who I was and what I was about, so that I could just go and deliver that and ignore the noise, because everyone's going to judge. Can't stop that. What I can do is really focusing on how I judge myself. And so I just really talked about my super strengths, self-affirmations, visualization I used a lot. I would be able to play the game the night before in full colour, volume, everything. I could see myself doing the things, see where players were going to be, what was I going to face. And I would do that the night before every single big game I played, and it just helped me be ready. And self-affirmation is something that I think I underestimated in the beginning of my career, but in the end I realised the power of me knowing what I'm good at and saying it to myself. There was huge power there. Which I still try and use today.
Yeah, we were lucky we had a psychologist that we could work with. And we, depending on who you were and what kind of level of support you needed, but that, self-talk, imagery in particular, they're so powerful and they can help in any situation. I didn't do it the night before, I did it literally just before the game. So after the physical warm-up, I'd go and sit down
when
on the bench.
I was waiting for you.
I would go and sit down on the bench, and I would kind of just, ask myself, okay, where am I? I would, just a little question, where do I need to be? Sometimes I might feel nervous, and I would combat that by almost just kind of getting some perspective. So, looking around thinking, how lucky am I to be here? Saying things like, thinking about the news, for example, or God, there's so much worse going on in the world. Just having that little bit of perspective, and that, just asking myself that question really helped me understand where I was and some of the things that I needed to put in place, like the imagery or just self-talk. Self-talk is so important, and making sure that's positive rather than the negative stuff that always comes naturally. And it's a skill. You can practice it, and we did practice it.
Yeah.
And then the injury side of stuff, I unfortunately had a couple of really bad injuries. I had 3 operations on my ankle. One of my tendons ruptured. I had 2 operations on my back because one of my discs ruptured. And both of those times, I didn't play hockey for 2 years with my ankle, which was challenging. That was the start of my career. The end of my career, I had my back surgeries, and that was more challenging because I was near the end of my career. I wasn't, we had a new coach as well at that time, and I thought that was it for me. And I said in the talk that my nickname was Cocky when I first got in the team, because I just had so much confidence in my ability as a hockey player. But in that experience of my back injury, I lost all my confidence, my self-esteem, everything about me kind of disappeared, and I had to work really hard at getting that back. And I did that through knowing what my strengths were, what I could do for the team, but also understanding some of the things that I could put in place that would help my mental health. So I went into a bit of a depression, and so I really started to understand myself a bit better. So I started doing mindfulness, because I would kind of catastrophize with my thoughts. I could go from one tiny little thought and it would be the worst thing in the world within 10 minutes. And mindfulness really helped to stop me from doing that. And then also understanding what I needed to put in place. Like, I was very single-minded. I wanted to win an Olympic gold medal, and everything was about that. But the other side, like making sure I had time for friends, making sure I had time for myself, like go and play a round of golf or things like that, making sure I put those things into my diary, I really learnt through that experience. So although it was hard at the time, and everyone says this, when you get through it, I actually appreciated what those hard times gave me.
Thank you. So thinking about your coaching experience, what do you think should be taught to players moving forward?
For me, I think my philosophy as a coach is to help unlock the potential in every player. And every single person has potential, and every single person can bring something to a team. And I think my job as a coach is to help them see that in themselves, and to present the environment and to provide the environment and the support to enable them to do that. And to do that in a way that's really unique and individual to them. And for me to really understand, my bias and where I'm coming from, and why that might mean I focus on some players more than others, and be really conscious and aware of that, and understand that it can't always be about me, which my ego really wants it to be, about me a lot, and it actually should never really be about me as a leader. It should absolutely be about the people or the person that I'm leading. So for me, it's about providing that environment to explore, to be curious, to change, to grow and adapt, to fail, and to fail safely, and to provide environments where they can make mistakes in a really positive way, and be really clear about who we are as a group and what we want to try and create. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, I completely agree with all of that. The only thing I would add, and what we did as a team, was we were empowered to really build and create that environment, which you kind of just touched on there at the end. Like, it's not being told what to do and how to be. Get that from the people. Yeah. How do we? I think the term "we" is really crucial as a leader. How are we? How do we want to be, and how are we going to create it?
Yeah.
So, regarding everything we've spoken about so far, are there any changes you would like to see socially, or even regarding certain policies in the sports community?
So many. I mean, we work with a charity called Access Sport, and they are a charity that work with disadvantaged and disabled young people, and giving them access to sport. Which, in 2024, how are we still here, where there are lots and lots of young people who don't have access to lots of different sports, because we're all different, sport or physical activity, because we're all different, and we just need to find where we fit. and that needs the ability to just try lots of different things, and we just don't have the funding, the policies, the leadership in place to enable that to happen. And it's about community. I think this is ultimately about different areas of the country, our schools and business and the private sector. Like, are we connecting together and saying, okay, what are the issues we are facing here as a community? And how can we build programs and put policies in place and funding in place to support and spread our resources out to where needs it right now? I just don't think we do that well enough, and so people suffer. And if you're on the periphery of power, on the periphery of funding, you're really going to struggle to get that support. And so, yeah, I think it's empowering and putting money in the right places with the right people to make those choices and make those decisions.
And I think one of the key things to enable that is who is making those decisions.
Yeah.
People don't like quotas. But the research is showing that quotas is starting to make a difference. So, i.e., there needs to be X number of women on boards. There needs to be, it's kind of really only women, isn't it, in terms of the quotas? But that should be the case for ethnicity for all the different groups, because, as Kate said, these decisions are being made by the same people with the same minds, and we need different minds in those meetings making different decisions, and just asking the question, who is this for, and is it benefiting everybody? So the diversity at the top needs to be much greater.
Yeah.
To finish off the interview, do you have any quick closing remarks?
Maybe some positivity as well.
So doom and gloom.
So negative.
Well, not to put all the pressure on you guys, but I feel and I think our parents probably said this about our generation, and probably every generation has said it about the one coming up. But I feel like people your age, you're demanding more. Because of social media is positive and negative, but the positive aspect of social media is that it can bring people together in a positive way, and get behind people or protest or whatever it might be, and start asking questions and living by values, and wanting policy and government and those people who hold power and money and resource to start making decisions that are for the benefit of all. And if it's not, then asking the question why, and being prepared to take action, and it's just the bravest people. Your fearlessness of youth is just the most wonderful thing, and it's something I really appreciated as an athlete. I appreciate it now in the work we do now, is that there is hope and belief for a brighter future. We absolutely want that. We support that. And we will do anything we can to, help enable that. And I think that hopefully was where we go.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you to you all. Thank you for this interview, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Groups like yourselves in schools are imperative. Like we've been to many schools, and there's not many of your kinds of groups. Organisations and companies have the same thing. The difference that makes to one person, whenever we go into an organisation and someone's got a rainbow lanyard on, that makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
I think, okay, I'm safe with you. Just those little visual things really help. The language that we use can have a really positive impact, and your group, the Rainbow Club in this school, will be having an impact even if sometimes you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
So keep doing it.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, continue to do it. And we'll spread the love that way and continue to make spaces more inclusive.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.